Okay, Andre, here we are again, mate.
Yeah,
Well, this is about the fourth consecutive conversation we've had on this particular subject matter,
yeah,
where nobody else on the channel would be so brave. So you're doing really well, mate.
great. Thank you.
um, and so, did you manage to get any further through the book? Hey, could you pull your camera so it's sort of symmetrical? That's right. Yeah. So you look like you're about 2/3 of the way through now.
Yeah, I'm on page. I'm about 300 pages in by now.
Oh, okay, halfway then.
So,
Well, actually, just under half.
so I'm on chapter 15,
Right. Okay.
and where we ended last time, where I think it's good to take the ending quote from
Yes,
last time.
indeed.
To be in a position to appreciate a mountain, we will need to be in a physically optimal conditioned state of health and fitness to climb it.
Hmm.
Yes, and I think, like I said before, that that is an extremely uh, important part because many skip over the physical aspect, and I always look for both parts in people, because if you skip over the physical aspect, then there is something missing in order for me to get deeper with that person, because
Yes, I
it's
don't
not the
think.
person that are like me,
Yeah,
really had have meditation and so on, but he is like don't have the other part you
yeah.
know
I don't think they are whole people. And
no.
um, the reason why I say that is because look at the deficit that they have when they don't have the discipline, they don't have the self respect, they don't have the drive, the tenacity, the endurance, they don't have the will, they don't have self respect. They don't care when they're flabby, blubbery, and unfit. They disrespect their family and their loved ones because they could never protect them adequately. If a child fell in the river, what is a fat bloke or woman gonna do? Nothing.
Yes.
And so there's a whole myriad of reasons why I hold it against people who don't uh, do the right thing and keep themselves in shape like the universe intended them to be. Now, as an aside to that, I write a part in my book, and I'm speaking about being closer to God via the supreme fitness that we have. When we
Yeah.
look at people that are super fit, let's say, look, for instance, this film, The Last of the Mohicans. Do you remember that film where you've got these tribesmen and they live in the jungles, and of course they're supremely active. Every day they're active in the climbing and the foraging, and they've all got bodies chiseled, out of granite, and they can run, 100 miles, and they can fight wild animals with the bare hands and all this sort of thing. Um,
Apocalypse, maybe it's.
Sorry.
Isn't it that one by Mel Gibson, right?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Mel Gibson's in it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so you see these people, and they're running through the jungle, and they never even get out of breath, and you can see the life in them. And so when I was training for my full contact karate, I was exceedingly super fit. And when you are super fit and you're running effortlessly for miles and miles and miles through the countryside, over hills and down dales and through woods and everything, well, you are absolutely 1000% connected with the elements of the world and with cosmic consciousness. And so, for some people, they would already be throwing up their hands around their ears and considering that I'm being elitist. I'm being humanist. That's what I'm being.
Yeah.
And if people don't like that, then they'll deal with that. But they know within their minds and hearts that all that I've said has some veracity. And if they haven't ever experienced a high level of fitness, then they don't know what they're missing. It's like people who haven't taken psychedelics. Oh, we don't need psychedelics. We can get things like that other ways. No, you can't. Sorry, you can't. And so, yes, it is elitist, humanist. It's about having all of the attributes that we're supposed to have as quality human
Yes.
beings. And when we look around us and we see that people don't have them, well, I just consider that, well, you can't trust them either. You can't trust
Exactly.
them to have
Exactly.
your back. You can't trust them to be there for you. Why? Because they're lazy, they're
Exactly.
disrespectful, they're dishonorable. They're all these negative things. Of course they are, because it is all um, portrayed from their physique.
100%. Yes.
Right. So you agree with that. I agree with that. And I would
Yeah.
think that anyone that's supremely fit would absolutely agree with it. And so there'd be lots of people out there now which would be wanting to say to me, put them up, if they only could. But,
Yeah.
their fat bellies would get in the way.
Yeah.
So, and I've got some friends out there who are fat blokes. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I,
Me
I
too.
wouldn't I wouldn't want to climb a
Some.
mountain with them, because
Yeah.
if I broke my leg or twisted my ankle, then there's no way those fat fucks are ever going to get me off the side of the mountain. But I'm pretty
No.
sure if a fat bloke broke his ankle, I'd carry him down on my fucking back.
Yeah.
Because I've got that level of determination, sheer tenacity, will and drive, power and spirit.
Yeah.
And so this is the whole thing that people don't grasp. It's really the David Goggins mentality.
Yeah.
You just fucking do it, you
Yeah.
know, and you don't accept anything less.
No.
Yeah, and
So.
so that's you see, I made a video today, and I'm singing songs again about this book. This book really is a jam-packed book of wisdom, knowledge, information, insight, and if people really knew how to read it, then they would get a massive amount from it. Because, like we're doing now, when you recite just one line, we could hold a conversation for 1 hour about that one
Yeah.
line, because it's so in depth.
And it does something with your mind to talk about it as well, because it's spurs out in more.
Yeah,
The book
more
becomes
smoke.
bigger.
It means so much more for life. And
Yeah.
so, what I've noticed, Andre, is not too many people are interested in our conversation, because
Mm.
they're not too interested in the book. They're not too interested in the depth and the beauty, what is written there. They're looking for something else. And I don't know what these
Mm.
fools are looking for, most of them. And they'll hate me for saying that, but I love them to hate me, because one day they may self-reflect and realize, there's a great deal of truth what I'm saying.
They might feel like confronted or
Yeah,
conflicted
absolutely.
inside, and oh, I will uh, read something that will shake my world in a way that I don't want it. I want it to be lovely and soft all the time, while
Yeah,
life is all aspects.
yeah, and I get it that there's quite a lot of my viewers that are foreign,
Yeah,
like yourself. English isn't their first language, and
yeah,
they are not as versed as you are.
uh,
You read a lot of English literature,
yeah,
and you know a lot of words, and you speak very well. But lots of people, younger, maybe coming from Eastern Bloc countries and things like that, they don't get the opportunity to speak as much English, and so they're restricted restricted, and I get that.
Yeah.
Then there's people that just don't have the mentality. They've never read. I mean, my family, for God's sake, I've never seen anyone with a book.
Hmm.
And all my friends, when I was growing up, very, very few would be engaged in reading. And you go into their houses and you look around, and where's the books? I used to own a removals business, so I used to move people
Yeah.
from home to home. And invariably, there wouldn't be any bookshelves. There'd be DVDs. Oh, there'd be box sets of DVDs and all that crap around, but there
Yeah.
wouldn't be any books.
No.
And unless there were teachers or academics or something like that.
Yeah. Then the next quote is followed on here. We need to be free from mental and physical suffering to appreciate our godliness and this incredible world with our extraordinary minds and bodies. If we neglect our holistic health throughout our lives, statistically, we will be much closer to experience hell than we would its counterpart, heaven.
Yes, and so I think that that verse constitutes the vast majority of my viewers. They don't know what I'm talking about when I'm speaking about this deep, rich inner peace and the freedom and the love and the joy that I experience in the natural world, and just feeling the sun on my body because my body feels pure. It feels capable and able. And dependable and all these sort of things. But if I was like 18, 20 stone, how could I feel good about myself? I just don't know how I could do that, Andre.
Yeah, it would be a shame, it's hard because you can't feel strong, and yeah, it would feel really, really bad to have a really thin arms and a big belly and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, I don't, I can't get it really because it would be not very nice to look in the mirror.
it wouldn't be nice to look in the mirror. It wouldn't be nice to stand in front of your partner or your children or anybody. It must be thoroughly embarrassing when you go to, maybe if you go swimming, or maybe you're too embarrassed to go swimming. You wouldn't go to the beach and take your clothes off. It's so restrictive. And I would have thought people would have just said, for God's sake, I'm going to do something about this because I don't want to be embarrassed 1000% of my life everywhere I go. And I don't want to turn away so many opportunities because I'm not up to it physically. Dad, can you come and play football with the other dads? Uh, I've got too much work to do, son. Oh yeah, but Dad, all the other dads are coming, and the other dads could be like 25 or 30 years old. But then people can't engage with that, and there's just a myriad of things. You cannot be a fully fledged human being if you are not in at least a very healthy state of being.
Yeah,
If you can't actually, spend at least half an hour 3 times a week in the gym, if you can't walk 5 miles and maybe run 2 miles, or cycle 3 miles, if you can't do that, then you're shocking.
yeah,
At the end of the day.
yeah. But it's not a lost case because the person can always do something about it and go in a more positive direction if he decide and get that tap on the back in one way or another.
Yeah, if they felt the shame deeply enough, if
Yeah,
they were embarrassed greatly enough, if
yeah,
they had a modicum of self-respect for themselves, if they considered that they want more from life, because in actual fact, yeah, they kind of fancy going skiing, and maybe some rock climbing, or some trekking, or join a cycle club or anything. like that.
Yeah.
Instead of what's the alternative? They're just couch potatoes. They take the easy route every single time. And people that take the easy route are not to be trusted, not to be respected, because they've got no values. I don't think they've
Yeah.
got values. And lots of people will probably, be really cussing me now. Oh, well, we do other things and we're kind people and we do lots of charity work and this, that, and the other. Well,
Yeah.
why can't you do it being fit? Yeah, I'm sure you'd be
Exactly.
more, you'd be better able to do your charity work if you're fit, and you'd set a fine example to other people. What example are people setting? When they're so out of shape and they've got these little weedy arms and big belly and skinny legs, and what are they? What example are they setting? They're setting the example.
Horrible example. And the man should also, like, if you have a girlfriend, she's or a wife, or she's decently looking, you're actually being like a demon to her, because she's
Disrespectful,
looking at
absolutely.
you, and you're not doing what you should do. And the case can be like, yeah, she start to deteriorate because of you, and that's not very loving towards the partner either, you know.
Yeah, and so when we look at people that married, and if they were reasonably trim and young when they
Yeah.
married, then but people think like, oh, I've got the guy, I've got the girl, that's it now, I don't have to try. It's absolutely dishonourable, it's disrespectful to
Yeah.
your partner, and if your partner wants to keep fit, then they've got every reason to leave you one day because you're not the person that they married, you're not the person that they signed a covenant with,
Yeah.
and you are showing them disrespect in any number of ways. And so there's a whole bunch to say about this. And this is why I so held in very high regard the German Socialist Party, because everybody in that country was fit. You
Yeah.
didn't see fat people, you didn't see unfit people, and then when you saw the youth and all that, super fit, every single one of them had a six pack. You see these videos, every single one of them could leapfrog over this wooden horse and, do all these different sorts of stuff. How kids should be.
Yeah, but actually in America a long time ago, I don't know if it was 100 years ago, or if it was like in the 1940 or 50, or when it can be, that if you were obese, the places where you saw an obese person was at the circus, you know, because
Yeah,
there they had a place, you know.
yeah.
So there we can also see how far America has gone.
Declined, yeah, and so this
Yeah.
is all about liberalism. Oh, just
Yeah.
letting people be free, let them be what they want, let them drop to the lowest rung on the ladder. That way, they won't live very long. They won't have any power. We can manipulate them, dominate them, bully them, and all the rest of it. You ain't going to do that to hordes of strong young men. Now, what I'm going
No.
to say about this is, and it should terrify Christians. But what we've got happening around the world, we've got very fit, strong young men coming into our countries, and they are very strong here, they're very strong in here, and they're very strong there. And they're
Yeah.
coming with a reason and a purpose, and they're going to
Yeah.
achieve it because the Christians are weak. And they
Yeah.
say this. If you listen to their videos, we can't mention any names because the video will get taken down. Everybody knows who we're speaking about. These people, these strong young men coming into all these countries, they're coming for one reason only, and that's to take over. And they're going to
Yeah.
do it, no doubt about it, because all the governments of the world are with them. And so, now we're going to see the backboneless Christians for what they really are.
Yeah. We surely would need some mentality of the Knights Templars, like in
Mm.
opposition.
Yeah. So weakness in any degree, weakness in mind, weakness in character, weakness in spirit, weakness in body, detestable.
Yeah.
And whoever is weak deserves then to get manipulated by the stronger.
Yeah.
And that's just how the world is. That's how nature is. And if people think that they are going to be privileged and they're going to be catered for and they are going to be protected with all their weaknesses, they will enjoy a little bit of that in the interim of this fakeness which is going on. But ultimately, they will see that when they have all become weak and stricken of their spirit, then they will just be pulverized. They will be metaphorically turned into pulp, and they will just be pumped out as fertilizer over the land. Because this is the whole premise of breaking down the spirit and the power of nations. It's for a
Yeah.
very good reason. It's not for
Divide and
liberalism,
conquer.
it's for power and control. And
Yeah.
these weak fuckers, they're going to see that soon enough.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
fucking on fire tonight, Andre. Oh my God. No wonder 90% of my viewers hate our conversations.
Hmm. Yeah. I have always a hard time understanding other people's way of being, because why is that so disturbing?
Well, when you when you rise up through whatever avenue you can as a human being, you look around you and it's difficult to comprehend why
Yeah.
other people don't have that desire spirit, because you say to them, don't you want to reap the benefits of this? Don't you want to reap the benefits of being supremely fit and confident and able? Look at all the things you can do around the world. I traveled all over the world, Andre,
Yeah.
because I was absolutely confident in my fitness and in my strength and in my able-bodiedness. If I was fat and weak and weedy, then there would have been a million places that I wouldn't have gone to and experienced, you know?
Yeah. Here's the next line on page 229. I mainly just booked a random flight to a random destination and left what would happen open to the cosmos. I did this with the greatest confidence that the universe had my back and some sort of an end game in mind for me. And that's what you said as well, all the countries
Yeah.
you visited.
Yeah, and you see, if you are in a position whereby you know you're doing the right thing, then you're
Yeah,
confident in every realm. And because I had this feeling of being spirited and being a part of something bigger, then obviously it gave me the power, the strength, and the confidence also. And so it's difficult to know which came first, to be fair, because I've always been fit, strong, able bodied, and confident. And so, did I manifest then this notion of a higher self looking after me, or was I projecting that onto the cosmos because I knew that I could look after myself?
hmm. Yeah. I don't know how it has really been with me because I was very chaotic when I was a child and a teenager and so on. And I didn't start to train physically until I was 19.
Mm.
So 18 and 19. there.
Yeah.
I started to train physically. But of course, I was in a pretty wild gangs and was out fighting before. So uh, that part was already there, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
you're young and you're fit, and well, I mean, when I was growing up, of course, we were always fighting each other, always fighting in school. It was just a given, and
yeah,
always fighting other villages and gangs of us, and we'd have all different sorts of fights with baseball bats and clubs and you name it, and
yeah,
many people, would come with knives and, air rifles and things like that. But that's just how it was.
yeah,
Now the times are very, very different. And,
yeah.
when for instance, I was reading a bit of a Dostoevsky book, and Dostoevsky is writing, in the 1800s in Russia. And oh my God, he's speaking about bar fights where people get thrown through the fucking windows. And people get stabbed, shot, and clubbed to death just in a fucking tavern, mate. And no coppers do nothing. There's no coppers around. You know, can you imagine in the 1800s,
Yeah,
what sort of police we had? We had the British Bobby. Ooh, the only thing he had was a fucking whistle and truncheon. They had nothing else, no backup. They were going to do nothing. And so that's the sort of realm. And, I've watched lots of these Russian videos of Russians fighting. And you just see, Russian guys in a nightclub, and they're all buff and they ain't taking no shit, and they're all fucking, gangsters and this, that, and the other. And then when they start fighting, all hell lets loose and they can fucking fight. And the vast majority of them know martial arts because they've been through this national service where they know how to fight for their lives, man. You know?
yeah,
And so when you got people like that, fuck, you don't want to get in the fight with these guys.
yeah,
And I met one guy. He's from Eastern Europe, and he'd got gunshot wounds. He'd got knife shot wounds. He'd got ice picks, holes in his body. All the things that he'd been involved with. Being like a doorman, throwing somebody out one night, and then guys coming back with friends to level things. And he was lucky to be alive. Many hadn't been. When I was growing up, I knew many gangsters that were shot or stabbed or ran over, purposely ran over. They were murdered, and so
mm,
this was an everyday thing. And so the world is a much safer place now,
yeah.
and that's a bonus. But it's gone too far. I think it's gone too far now.
Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. My stepfather was a gangster, kind of, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't know too much about it because I was so indifferent when I was a teenager. Also, you know,
Indifferent to what?
to most things, you
Uh
know.
huh.
So it was, yeah, okay. But he knew the highest of the highest
Yeah.
crazy dudes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Next quote or line is on page 233. The how and why we arrived at our newfound awakening is primarily due to our suffering.
The lessons we learn from suffering.
Yeah,
The greater the suffering, the greater the lessons we should derive. But,
yeah,
this only happens to a few of us, a small percentage, because if we all got, exponentially wise via our suffering, then you would think a whole lot more people would have been wise.
Yeah.
Because lots of people suffer in lots of different ways. These days, they're suffering mentally rather than physically.
Yeah.
And if it was the case that having had decent bouts of suffering, then we would all potentially wake up and see the light and change our lives and all that sort of thing. Then the world will be very, very different. But very few people do, and I've often said, and I say it somewhere in the book as well. Um, when we are compromised. When I grew up, I was in children's home because my mother, committed suicide, and so from the age of 4, I went to children's homes. And within these children's homes, I met other effectively orphans, abandoned kids or kids that, their parents had died or killed themselves or whatever. And there was one couple of brothers. So there's me and my elder brother. And then there was these two other brothers. And one of them was Indian and the other one was of African ascent. And their mother was white. So it was kind of curious because she'd obviously had relationships with an Indian guy and then with an African guy, and they were, chalk and cheese, but they were brothers, and they kind of like had some sort of allegiance with each other because of they were brothers in a children's home, and
Yeah.
they used to look out for each other a little bit, but. The Indian guy ended up being homosexual and always kind of like contemplating suicide because of his affliction or whatever. And the African guy did kill himself
Hmm.
because he couldn't fit in. He always considered himself to be a waster, and I look at that and I went, wow, well, me and my brother, we had the same upbringing, pretty similar circumstances, and so not everybody makes it. And
Hmm.
as to why I turned out, so able to deal with it, who knows? I've got no idea. I can't lay claim to anything of my own volition. It's just what I was blessed with and how I've been guided. But yeah, lots of
Yeah.
people, when they get really, really down, they take their own lives or they become drug addicts and they never come back
Yes.
from that. And my one of my best friends, he drank himself to death because he wasn't strong enough to deal with life.
Yeah.
And so
Neither me or my brother has done that, but a friend of mine said to me that many that have gone through the things I have gone through would end up much worse than me.
yeah.
Most, he said.
Yeah. And
Uh,
so
yeah,
some of us, we channel the energy and the anger
yeah,
into productive areas. Others, they channel the negative energy, anger, into destroying themselves. And
yeah,
so you've got one set of people that go that way and another set that go this way. And so we're fortunate. We went the positive way where many have gone the other way.
yeah.
Mm.
Next line is on page 236. The bizarre thing about most mental illnesses is that we ourselves bring them on by thinking non productive thoughts over prolonged periods. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
Yeah, one could take the saying by Napoleon Hill, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, you know?
Yep.
So if you want to achieve something, you can think about it hard and do the work that is needed toward that certain thing.
Yep.
But if you have programmed your mind in a bad way over a long period of time, that will work in the opposite direction.
Yes. And so like was it Napoleon Hill that said think and grow rich?
Yeah, yeah, There
Yeah,
was
so
that book.
some people can think and grow rich, other people will think and grow poor.
Yeah,
Our minds become things, and so whatever we focus on, we send the energy to. And if we're always focusing on the negative and the depressive and bringing ourselves down, that we could never achieve this and never achieve that, well, you are creating your reality with every single second of your life.
yeah.
You see, my old man, he was primarily a pessimist. All of his thoughts used to involve the negative facet of what's bound to happen. He always thought that the worst was always going to happen to him. Whereas I've always intuitively and instinctively considered that, the best is always going to happen to me. Why? Because I'm not accepting anything else. And if bad things befall me, then I'll just parry them, and I'll continue with my journey for the good things. But if you just get one bad deed your way, and you crumble, and you can't get back up again off the floor, well, you've got no spirit, have you? You deserve to be on the floor. You deserve to be there where people can step on you.
I think you have a lot of uh, your mind is more programmed towards the positive, like most people than most people. Similar with me, but I do recognize certain things that are like even if I work with them, it takes a long time to get over them.
Hmm.
Even with the positive affirmations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then I have the other part that think, when when I try to get into a more positive state, and if I can't do that, and if there's a blockage, doesn't it become a little bit neurotic to always push again, not push against it, but try to get into a state where I can act perfectly?
Well, I mean, we some of us, we like to um, shoot for excellence.
Yeah,
We want excellence in every facet of our lives. And if you don't consider that you are worthy, or if you don't want to put the effort in, then you'll settle at a certain level. You know,
mm,
but when you look at people who have been successful, of course they've not settled at anything. They have never ever settled, and they've been battered down 1,000 times, but they've got up 1,001 times. You know, and so
yeah,
that's just the constitution of some people. And some people listening to this video now may be deriving a bit of energy, because it is a motivational conversation, um,
yeah,
as well as what some people would think would be a derogatory conversation. But I'm like, well, you decide for yourself what it is. If you
yeah,
think it's a derogatory conversation, well, you are considering yourself the victim, and you are happy to be the
exactly.
victim, or you're unable to be anything else. Those who are out there and go, fuck it, yeah, I'm not going to stand for this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to lose weight, and I'm going to strive for excellence. Well, it's just a mindset, isn't it? And
Yeah,
so the mindset, it could be considered to be a gift who have those mindsets, because lots of people don't have it. And lots of people would say to me in the comments through many years, I wish I had a little bit of your energy. I wish I had just a modicum of your energy and your zest for life. But they don't, and it's really unfortunate. And I've never been able to get my head around why people have always considered that the glass is half full, or yeah, only half full. I would say no, the glass is always full. It's full, whether it's full of water, juice, or air. It can't be half anything. It has to be full. And so you see, you never hear that argument. I write about it in the book. When people use the glass half empty or half full analogy,
Yeah.
they'll go like, I look at it as if it's half full, and some people say I look at it as if it's half empty. And it's kind of like, well, it's not half of anything. I just can't see it half anything. It's full. So if
Mm.
it's full, where's the problem? You've solved the
Yeah.
problem. You've solved the fucking problem. There's no argument. There's no debates. Nothing. The glass is never half any fucking thing. It's full.
Mm.
So if you've got a glass like I've got now, and it's got half water in, well, it's got half air, um, oxygen and nitrogen in
Yeah.
the top part. Yeah. So the glass is full, and I
Yeah.
can use whatever. I can use it all.
Yeah.
And we see I'm drinking the water now, taking the benefit of the water, but I'm
Yeah.
also gulping down the air as well.
Yeah.
See? So, what is significant, and what I'll say to viewers, if they like these conversations, the reason why I'm enticing other people to come forward, because they will read that book and pick out completely different lines. You
Yeah.
see, you're picking out the things that pertain to your character, strength, and power, and certain warrior spirit attributes. Your ears prick up when I'm speaking about that sort of stuff, and you relating to it. It's significant that you don't relate to anything where I've been speaking about other things like love or some of the softer things. No. And so if I had a woman engage, then she'd be going, oh, you say here, or there's one line here that how could we ever really love anybody? Well, and they'd go on waxing lyrical about how they do it, and I'd go, well, yeah, all right, whatever, and so
Yeah.
um, that's the thing about this book. This book is by no means definitive, because it's going to be um, uh, a utility for every single person that reads it with an open mind and an open heart. If people, let's say Christians, because that book trashes faith and religion. It's a spiritual book, and the title, is an ambiguous one because closer to God means closer to me, closer to the self. The self and God, um, as far as I'm concerned, are the same thing. And,
Mm.
neither of them ultimately exist. Where is God? What are God's attributes? Who knows? Nobody's ever seen him. Where's the self? What are the self's attributes? You can't find the self. You look for the self, you won't find it. It's a figment of our imagination. So, there's lots of things in my book which are, riddles wrapped in mysteries inside enigmas. They're paradoxes because it's a direct reflection of the cosmos and the paradox.
Yeah. Next line here on page 258. I'm optimistically, slightly confident, however, that with the correct tuition, the human race could rise their consciousness significantly to a level that is befitting to the acceptable appreciation for this um, incredible home we have been blessed with.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, that is possible. I mean, when that will happen, we never know. But it will certainly or probably decline far beyond any figment of the imagination before we see any golden age in the human
Yes, it's going to get a whole
consciousness.
lot worse before we have an implosion, and then the human race, the human spirit is born again. You
Yeah,
see, why I remain, slightly optimistic that the human beings will wake up a degree, because if they had the relevant tutors, i.e., people like Rudolf Steiner. Uh,
yeah,
Rudolf Steiner teaching people how to farm naturally, how to get involved with the natural world and the spirit of the cosmos, and to be spirited as well as a human being, and all these intertwined things, and realize that we're not just this physical body. Well, if we had that global sort of tuition, then we would be living in a vastly different world. But
yeah.
as the world seems to be run by a demiurge intent on the destruction of the human being, well, I can't see it happening this millennia.
Hmm. Page 262. The people in the inner circles cannot see outside their circle into other circles, but those in the outer circles can see into all of the circles within their own.
Hmm. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that there's always, I can look into the different circles while I can't look beyond any circle on the outside like that,
Y-
unless I maybe take an energy and get a shift of perspective, and
yes.
and so on. Yeah, but then there's people that are deep within all those circles that are very primitive as well, that
Yep.
are the absolute proletariat that just can shit, eat, and work,
Yes. So I write about concentric circles, and I use the analogy of throwing a pebble into a pond. And when you watch the circles spread out one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, this is my simile analogy of the expansion of consciousness. The more our consciousness expands, the further we go out in these concentric circles. And for instance, Jordan Peterson, people like Ben Shapiro, Douglas Murray, Weinstein brothers, and lots of people that are pretty clued up about lots of things in the world. They have a state of consciousness which is vastly over and above the common people. And the common people will invariably not know where they're coming from. They may think they do, because all stupid people think they know a whole lot more than they actually do,
Yeah.
but they don't. You see, but the people on the outside, they can see into all the circles within theirs, and they know exactly what is going on with the mindset and the consciousness of the inner circles, because their circles encompass that. We've come from that. We all started maybe from the center, and we've gone out further and further and further. And the more we experience, like for instance, if we take entheogens, wow, we can go out 2 or 3 concentric circles as our consciousness expands exponentially.
Yeah.
And then the people that haven't took them have got no idea what we are feeling, thinking, talking about, experiencing any of these things. They can read something, they can watch something on a video, but they won't be able to know it. Knowing it is experiencing it. Knowing it is being actually in that outer circle.
Yeah.
And So when you are in one of these outer circles, you can see all of those very, very clearly within your circle, and you can also recognize those that are outside your circle. People that are outside my circle in lots of respects, people like Peterson, people like Russell Brand, people like Eric Weinstein. They're phenomenal thinking individuals, and they may not have taken too many psychedelics or be that spiritual, but they are very intellectual. And when they speak, I'm like, they're speaking Chinese. you know,
Hmm.
because if they have a PhD in physics and this and the other, I know nothing about physics, so
Hmm.
they can hold conversations and they sound super genius. Because I know nothing about physics, then to me they are super genius. But if I held
Yeah.
a conversation with them about psychology, for instance, then I might be able to hold my own with them.
Yeah.
Just depends
Yeah.
on the subject matter. But when we are, quite a lot of circles out from the center, then we do recognize people that are outside of our consciousness. Whereas the stupid people in the middle, they can't see any circles outside. They're too stupid. And
Yeah.
this is why, this saying that, there's the ignorant know no bounds to their stupidity, because they don't know they're stupid.
Yes. Yes. They are that stupid that they even are able to fool themselves that they are like something more, while often the more intelligent people fool themselves to be more stupid. Like I have fallen into that trap. Yeah, yeah. Like uh, I don't. It has taken time to get it that the people don't try to look into things, but a little bit they
Yeah.
must do like that. I have had a more positive view of people before because when I talked about certain things, I thought that maybe they actually get a little bit what I'm saying, but actually, many people don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so then you see that, well, yeah, you're speaking a different language, really.
yeah.
Um, uh, and so, yeah, I mean,
And that's not really to stomp on anybody or anything like that. Really, it's just stating a certain observation about certain things. But people can easily take it as like when one says certain things. Not that it matter, but it's a matter in just in. Letting people know the perspective,
yes, I was going to
Yeah.
make a video the other day, and I probably will make this video. And the video was going to be titled, Why I Love Listening to People That Make Me Feel Stupid.
Hmm.
Because when we listen to people that make us feel stupid, we have a reality check. We realize that there's a whole bunch of stuff for us to know. And this is why we have this saying that the more we learn, the more we realize how little we know. Because the more we learn, the more bereft of any real knowledge about anything we find ourselves to be. And so when I listen to certain people and I feel completely out of my depth, that's very inspiring to me. And so then I want to read the books, I want to listen to more, I want to absorb more,
Yeah.
and I want to acquaint myself with their level of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, I know that especially Julius Evola has been like an author for me that has been like that. I don't get it. I went for a long time where I didn't get where his mind were coming from.
Right.
It took a fair amount of time until I
Yeah,
grasp it.
and so when we read more, when we absorb more, when we age and have more experience, then all this stuff will, um, you know, mean more to us. We will
Yeah,
see more into it, and so yeah, and I was speaking in this video I put up today, and I said what I was doing when I was starting out on my spiritual journey was incessantly reading, for 90% of my life. And what I would do is when I come upon any name, person that was referenced in any book, I needed to discover who they were. Because if I just read the name and it never meant anything to me, then I just kept reading, then there was a huge hole in what I was supposed to understand.
yeah,
For instance, if I was reading Sigmund Freud, and Freud would mention Alfred Adler. Um, uh, then I'm like, well, I've not read anything on Alfred Adler, but Alfred Adler is a very, very respected psychoanalyst of the Freudian camp. And
yeah,
so, if Freud is saying something about Adler, if I'm going to get what Freud is saying and referring to, I need to know something about Adler. So
yeah.
therefore, I have to
Exactly
read
how I
Adler.
think about it as well. Yeah, but there are so many different authors that come into mind through a book. That that some of them I just look for the name and scratch a little bit on the surface to know what kind of person that was, yeah,
At the
and
very
so
least, we
on.
should Google them.
Yeah.
You know, but
So
but when I was doing all my reading, I never had a computer, and
yeah,
I was old school. I was just digging out the old dusty books written 100 years ago.
yeah,
But we need to fill in the gaps.
yeah,
And it's endless. It really is. And this is why, people that are flying high today in the social circles, Peterson and, the likes, they are absolutely prolific readers.
yeah,
And they have the ability to read very, very fast.
yeah.
Now, Peterson reckons he reads 1,200 words a minute.
Hmm.
Now, that is just like,
Yeah,
and
that's
I
fast.
don't know how serious to take that. I read 100 words a minute.
Yeah,
I'm absorbing the words. I'm making sure that I'm concentrating on what's being writ, and I'm archiving it. I'm absorbing it and remembering it. And you can't do that if you're just speed reading.
yeah,
Speed reading is okay if you are just looking for the highlights of any particular document
yeah.
or something like that. But if you really want to absorb the information, you can't speed read it.
No.
I don't know. Maybe Peterson's mind, does absorb it as well as speed reading because he's been doing it, since he reckoned he started reading all different sorts of, weird shit when he was about 5 years old. So
Oh, yeah, and he read pretty advanced stuff when he was 13. So yeah,
yes, yeah. Reading Carl Jung when you're 13 and shit like that. Well,
yeah, Nietzsche and Carl Jung
yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah. On the same page here, however, we can exhibit a level of compassion to a degree when engaging with the unawakened folk, because it isn't their fault to the greatest extent. But
Wow,
when,
hang on, hang on, hang on.
yeah,
Wait, wait, wait. Are you still reading from my book?
yeah,
Who wrote that shit?
you wrote that shit, yeah,
Speaking about compassion, was that me?
yeah,
Okay, go on.
yeah. I start over again on it,
Yeah.
yeah. However, we can exhibit a level of compassion to a degree when engaging the with unawakened folk, because it isn't their fault to the greatest extent, but when speaking with our kinsfolk who share this greater awareness, it's emancipating not to feel the need to tiptoe around what we want to convey.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because sometimes you need to have tactfulness with the people because you actually want to engage them and find it interesting and so on, you know.
Yes, and to be blunt in your opinions and hypotheses and this, that, and the other,
Yeah,
they would be on the back foot and defensive.
yeah,
Um, for instance, if you started speaking about religious philosophy or something like this, to most religious people, they would instantly be affronted and they would be on the defense and on the attack and all the rest of it. It was very
yeah,
pleasant actually when I was speaking to this old lady that I've often had conversations with in the graveyard the other day. I'm making a video sitting down, and she came and sat beside me. Oh, hello, Aaron. And
yeah.
like, oh,
I
I said,
saw that video actually.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so I'm saying, well, I don't believe, I think it's for unintelligent people, this that, and the other, and she was cool with that. It washed straight over her.
yeah,
She was like she was a real Christian,
yeah.
with the compassion and the understanding and the deep, rich knowledge and all that sort of thing. And they are far and few between because the vast majority of these Christians are fake as fuck, and they are the first to start wanting to spit venom and try to hurt you in any possible way. Good God. But
Hmm.
yeah, when you come upon someone that's truly spirited and connected, it's very, very apparent.
Hmm. Yeah. Talking about Christians, I actually started to read a book 2 days ago, or was it last week or something? I started to read it. Gurus, the young man, and elders Pisces.
Right.
It's actually a Christian who has written it, an
Hmm.
Greek Orthodox Christian.
Right.
I find it very interesting because he meets entities and demons. He does yoga. He does all kind of stuff, you know. And
Yeah.
he meets an Orthodox kind of uh, pastor, so to speak. A very it doesn't feel like a close-minded person when I read it. Actually, it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah. So I mean, they're few and far between, as I say.
yeah,
I was only listening to a Christian and atheist debate, an hour before we started to talk, and the shocking and ridiculous rebuttals that the Christian always come up with for the heinous, vile, evil acts of the God of the Old Testament. They always will worm their way out and, try to pretend that that never happened and that meant this and that meant that. No, it's as plain as fucking day. It's evil shit. But you've got these despicable, dishonest, unintellectual freaks that are just desperately clutching at straws, and they're the ones that are absolutely shocking, and they're the ones that are going to be crushed by the wave coming over the world. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm telling you. You see this sort of stuff that we can't talk about. It's been going on for thousands of years, as you mentioned earlier, with the Knights Templar, with the
yeah,
Crusades, and all that sort of stuff. It's nothing new under the sun. It's been going on for thousands of years. It's never going to
yeah,
end. And
yeah,
sometimes, one side won, and sometimes the other side won.
yeah. Page 264. If I came out of my house and turned left instead of right, then that would constitute a quantum jump into a parallel universe. The tiniest of action constitutes another jump, and on it goes for every person that has ever lived and will live. It's a preposterous idea by all accounts, if not only for the sheer innumerable universes that would be created every second of every day to infinity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, what I'm speaking about the many worlds quantum physics hypothesis.
Yeah.
There's a dude called Sean Carroll. I think Brian Greene also speaks about this sort of stuff. Sean Carroll, he wrote a book about it, and he's saying that the only way quantum physics could resolve the Schrodinger's cat hypothesis is if the cat wasn't dead and alive at the same time, that they were both, and how they became both is one entered into another parallel dimension.
Hmm.
And so, when I'm speaking about, walking outside my door and turning left instead of right, well, if I turn right, I enter one world. If I turn left, I enter another world. That's, the preposterous nature of the many worlds hypothesis, because it's massively too expansive to have separate cosmoses, universes created with every small thing that anybody does, or an
Yeah.
animal, or, this, that, and the other. So
Hmm.
you're familiar with that?
Yeah, the multiverse theory and
Yeah,
stuff like that, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting because the smallest change of what I will do next can change something even bigger. I
yeah,
just move this here instead, and that will happen something else, or it will affect something at least, but I
yeah.
don't know what.
Well, so kind of like, we had this hypothesis of the butterfly effect, and that
Yeah,
affects everything in the world. Well, the quantum many worlds hypothesis, that just creates a new universe. It doesn't
yeah.
change our world; it just creates another universe.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So on page 269, how to know God? The answer is by knowing yourself. That's what Jesus has told us. His Father's kingdom is within us all. So it's best to get cracking and see if we can find it. How do we start? By being kind and loving. Because when we do that, we create the best possible reaction that our bodies can develop, which is the feeling of love. When we generate love, we have entered God's kingdom. Simple. And so, if we live our lives focused on love and peace, we will primarily create our own reality, heaven on earth. Hmm. Yeah, that I do think that is sometimes easier said than done. Sometimes Uh, easier said than done.
it
Sometimes.
is easier said than done, but
Yeah.
if you can do it, it becomes a reality.
Hmm.
Because what you do is, when you exercise compassion, when you do the right thing by everybody that you encounter, you personally don't carry any negative energy. And if you turn the other cheek, if you effectively are not affected or affected by people's actions, you don't carry the weight of it. It is easier said than done, of course it is. But the principle of it, the philosophy of it, is pertains to a great deal of truth. Now, I know it's true because in my life, where I move in very, very small circles, I don't have people's energy affecting mine. That affords me to be in the best possible tranquil state.
Yeah.
If I went out into the city and I saw the scum and the vermin and the miscreants, and if I was affected by any of them for whatever reason, and I came home and I'm thinking, wow, my God, what has our country come to? It's a cesspool out there. It's vile. The city's completely transformed from what it was when I was a kid. It's no longer British. It's no longer Britain. What the hell is this? Then, of course, my equilibrium has been affected, and the thoughts are creating emotions, and so you see, just that line there, that line is a very, very deep and powerful line. Because if we can do the things that the Bible hypothesizes about, if we can judge not, if we can turn the other cheek, if we can exercise compassion, if we can be charitable, if we can not do all the things that were recommended not to do, most of the Ten Commandments, if we can live our lives like that, then we still our hearts and we empty our minds of any friction or attrition. And that way, then, we enter into the kingdom of God, which is an absolute peaceful state of being. The primal state of being without any worries or fears or anything. That's the state that we get into when we are in the deepest of meditation. This is the Buddhist nirvana,
Yeah.
or samadhi, so that's what I'm speaking about there. But who can do that? Um, then I go on to say that the people with the greatest capacity to be able to do that are people that take them away from society, i.e., nuns or monks or gurus that go and meditate and live in a cave because they know they can't get into this super heightened state of consciousness when people are milling around them and they're being affected and contaminated.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about if you've ever encroached on that, if you've ever started to realize it yourself. Because if for me, for instance, me, I was meditating 5 hours a day for a few years, and living alone in lots of varying circumstances. And when I did that, I entered into this beautiful, blissful space. And when I was walking around, all the people, they just looked like ghosts. Passing by, and I never had any thoughts about them. I never had any emotions about them. They meant nothing to me. For instance, when I was living in Bulgaria, they all spoke a language I didn't comprehend, and so I couldn't communicate with them in the early stages in any case. And so I felt absolutely emancipated, free, and harboring a high level of contentment and godliness.
Yeah. I usually have not that much problem with people in that way. That I can stay pretty meditative around people as well. uh, like you, being in another country where you didn't understand what they were talking about and so on.
Hmm.
But what I if I've also, like you, sat by the cemetery. I found that that's pretty nice to do that, and I've done that this year. But no one is coming up to me or complaining, even if I have my shirt off or anything like that, you know.
Right.
But knowing how Swedish people are, they don't dare, or maybe they don't dare to do it with me because they feel it like would be talking to somebody's dead doesn't give a fuck, you know,
Yeah.
or something like. I just, maybe I have a uncomfortable way for them or something
Well,
that
just by
puts them
you,
off.
the way you look, there's a high potential that they could encounter trouble if they started shooting their
Yeah,
mouths off to you. And so, that's the thing. So most people would be wise or cowards about that,
yeah,
and they wouldn't do it. But when you've got older people who are pretty comfortable that you wouldn't be hitting them. It doesn't matter what they said to you because they're too old. So
yeah.
they can play on that, and of course, if they're women, then they can speak vile things to you because you're not going to be doing anything like that. And
No,
so, you
but
know,
but, but if people say something, they are polite and they are nice, you know.
mm,
That's the only thing I have met. It's people that are polite and start to talk about, oh, I like it around here and so on. Oh,
yeah,
my wife is laying here. She's been laying here for a couple of years and so on.
yeah,
And
and like
people
I
that
say, you go.
yes, as some old man that said, "Yeah, I like to walk around here any day of the day. Yeah, you
Mm.
know, I have no problem walking here at night and so on."
Yeah. So difference in culture or mentality because
Yeah, it can
it
be
happened
that. Yeah,
3 times to me, whereby I'm just sitting down reading a book in my shorts, and the people were offended because it was a graveyard and I was contravening the etiquette. And one guy said to me, "My wife's buried in here," yeah, and I like, well. I'm pretty sure if your wife's looking, she's having a whale of a time looking at this fine figure of a man in tight, small shorts.
yeah,
Maybe that's what he was offended about.
yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Difference in culture. Yeah,
Yeah.
difference in people's mentality also maybe.
Yeah.
Because the people that I met has been actually genuinely polite. It has felt, you know,
Hmm.
but it can be something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then on page 276, confessing a wrongful act before a priest or God releases us from our guilt and purges the pressure pertaining to the sin which we have buried and hidden within us. Sin is negative energy, or a demon of some sort, or a corruption of our potential purity, and an act against God. Upon our confession, penance, and reconciliation, we are set free from the adverse effects of our sins by God's grace.
Right. Now then.
Yeah, doing the confessions to a priest or God to release the sin or the shame of something.
Yeah.
Because then we don't have these negative energies left in us like blockages and so on.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so the whole thing about the confessions, which is a Catholic Church theme, um, y- y- people. You see, the thing is about it is that it's a very deceptive and sneaky thing that the Catholic Church do, because
Yeah.
the preacher is privy to their whole flock, who they're always encouraging to go to confessions. So they learn who's having an affair, they learn who's stolen something, they've learned who's done some conniving or some backstabbing and this, that, and the other. So the Catholic Church is knowing about all what's going on in the community. So it's very sneaky and surreptitious. Um,
Mm.
I would, if I was any of them, I would bypass the preacher and go straight to the man in the sky. Why would you go to a preacher and risk feeling humiliated or embarrassed or threatened that one day he might tell somebody what you've done? Why don't you just tell the man in the fucking sky? Because the preacher is only ambassador for him in any case. But
Mm.
either way, we know that when we divulge our contraventions, our sins, we relieve that suppression because it's
Yeah.
pent up energy. We know we've done wrong, and if we keep it in, then that festers. But if we let it out, if we apologize, if we tell somebody, oh, by the way, I stole this from so and so and so and so, it seems to release us from something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So this whole thing about confession, um, you don't need to confess to God. Uh, you just need to get it off your chest. You just need to say it to someone or something. Now, I tried it out, you see, by confessing to the universe, uh, saying to the clouds that I'm confessing this and I'm confessing that. And so, if the cosmos wants to release me of my burden, then please do so. And lo and behold, what happened? I was released instantly. I could feel it. I'm like, I don't carry the weight of that anymore. So I look in then to the psychology of it, and I'm like, did God take it away? Did the universe take it away? Or was it the very fact that I admitted it to myself? You see, if we deny, if our guilt doesn't enable us to own up to it, you see, look, if you steal something from somebody and you're guilty about that, well, you're going to carry the weight of you for the rest of your life. You shouldn't have done that. It was a bad thing. You stole this little old lady's purse. Why did you do that? My God, you are seriously a sinner. And so if you say to yourself, fuck, I stole that person, it's a very, very bad thing. Well, I mean, you're halfway there, aren't you? You've admitted it
Yeah.
to yourself that you have done something bad. So you're looking for penance, you're looking for forgiveness. And so if you go back to the old lady and go, I'm sorry I stole your purse. And she goes, "Oh, you wicked man." You kind of like, okay, yeah, I deserve that. But if she says, "Oh, thank you very much for your honesty," then you're gonna go, "Oh, cool, right, yeah." So she forgave me, and the forgiveness works, doesn't it?
Yeah. And there's other things as well that is very easy for human beings to do. It's lying, and they can tell small white lies instead of telling the truth exactly as it is.
Yes,
So
so but when people lie, then of course you have to lie more. You have to lie on top of lies on top of lies, and then
yeah.
you become so infected with it that when then you start to avoid people because you told this person one lie, you told that person one lie, and damn, these people are sitting together over there now. Oh, I never expected that. So you say, oh, I can't hang around, guys. I've got to go and do this and do that. So you find that you're closing yourself down from everybody in all different sorts of opportunities, you see. But if you're honest, the truth will set you free.
Yeah, it could be a small lie, like saying that the food you were served was really good while it actually was shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Then it's better to say, nah, it wasn't that good, you know? It
yeah.
was too salt or whatever,
Mm.
because then that person will know that he maybe do a little too much salt in the food or whatever it can be.
Yeah, so in that instance, then lying it works for everybody.
Yeah,
It works for you because you're not going to suffer the animosity. It works for them because they're not going to feel embarrassed, or offended, or this and the other. So yeah, I mean, when we look at everything, of course, there's polarities to everything, and both polarities will serve us in an equal way in certain situations.
yeah,
And so this is why we have to apply different rationale for each given circumstance. But what I was saying there is that there is something to be said for confession. It does release us. The truth does set us free on some occasions, and would be wise to not harbour lies and deceit and all these different sort of things, because if we do, we cannot enter into the kingdom of God. And you see, this is the whole thing about the kingdom of God. What I'm saying throughout this whole book, the kingdom of God is within your mind, your heart, and every cell in your body. You are the kingdom of God. And if you are carrying negative energy, then you are carrying sins, because sin means without. So you are without the emancipation and the freedom of God consciousness. You have encumbered yourself with negative energy, which doesn't enable you to feel at peace with yourself. So
yeah,
if we don't lie, if we don't wish anybody any harm, if we don't, sin in all the multitude of ways, then we actually will enter into the kingdom of God. Because what is the kingdom of God except not for complying with all God's wishes? So if we comply with all God's wishes, surely we enter into the kingdom of God then. It's a state of mind, isn't it?
yeah,
But you see, the idiot Christian, they will say, no, 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 you don't enter into the kingdom of God. You enter into the kingdom of God when you die. Well, how would you ever know that? How would anybody ever know that? Nobody's ever known that. And so it's completely superfluous to how we live in this life. Why can't we reap the benefits of God consciousness here and now? We can. And
yeah,
so this is why I maintain that heaven is a crock of shit, hell is a crock of shit, God is a crock of shit, the devil's a crock of shit. It's all a fiction of imagination. They are realities with negative energy and positive energy, and you can call them whatever you want to. Negative and positive does exist. You can call it
yeah,
the devil, you can call it, God. But there's no Allah, there's no Jehovah, there's no Satan, there's none of that. I'm almost absolutely certain of that, because everything is a construct of mind, and we experience all these things in mind. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't go into the fiery Gehenna in the ground to experience hell. We can experience hell right fucking here, right now. And we can experience God exactly the same. So we've not gone up into the clouds, into heaven. We've not gone into the center of the earth, into hell. We've experienced these things right here. So it's a crock of shit, then, isn't it? If we can experience the absolute bliss of God consciousness, when you have no better feeling, you go, well, fuck me, that must be God then. That must be God. Because it's nothing like I've experienced being a human being in regular circumstances. And then sometimes when we, suffer the most hideous of negative energy, and you can say to yourself, that was the fucking man himself. That was the beast. That was, the beast entered my consciousness at some stage. You know,
yeah.
so this is what I'm saying. Um, it's all a state of mind.
Mm, yeah. For me, it's like, yeah, it's possibly like that, but I don't know, I
But
don't
you
really
don't know.
know.
What do you mean you don't know? If you've
Yeah, but,
experienced,
but because I really don't know all energies and all entities that exist within this realm. But at the same time, as what you are saying is like everything is mind, then everything which you can construct with your mind also exists,
yeah,
that which you give energy and so on. Yeah,
yeah. And
of course, yeah.
if these things are actual spirits, which they could be spirits, different energies, and they enter into your mind, I write about this in the book. I don't know whether you've come upon it as yet. I don't know what chapter it's in, but feeling a very, very powerful, sinister evil, which hung around for a few months, but very, very intense. 1 month,
Yeah,
and it's
recognize that.
sorry,
Yeah, yeah, recognize what you're saying. Yeah.
right, and so it was like the devil himself came to see if he could steal my soul.
Hmm.
But then I've had encounters with God and Jesus, so I know kind of like what these things feel like, And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, well, I've experienced hell to a degree and I've experienced heaven to a degree. How broad or how more horrific could hell be? How more wonderful could heaven be? you know, what state would we be in? I've been in an ecstatic state where I reckon Jesus was speaking to me. Well, I couldn't be in any higher ecstatic state than that because I couldn't move. I was trembling and shaking all over, and tears were just streaming down my face, and I just couldn't move. I was incapacitated. So if heaven is more than that, it'd probably kill me.
Hmm.
So then when you go to the other realm and you're in the deepest and darkest of energies, well, people will kill themselves. And
Yeah.
so what happens then? Are they free from that hell, or do they go further into it?
Hmm.
Very deep. All that stuff's very, very deep.
Yeah. Yeah. That part we don't really know, like you said. Yeah.
Mm.
Like if there is a hell, or if there's a. I mean, it is. Yeah, hell, like they describe it, is like a horror stories made up and so on. Yeah.
Hmm.
And the angels. Yeah, yeah, all that stuff might exist, like in the afterlife as well for some.
Yeah. Well, I don't doubt that there are other dimensions and other entities because I've seen them. I've seen
Yeah,
many variety of entities, so I know they exist, and I
yeah,
know that there are other paradigms or dimensions of consciousness because I've been into them with supernatural experiences and outer body experiences, and
yeah,
Lord knows, how many entheogen experiences I've had where I've seen other parallel worlds, simulacrums. And so there are, in actual fact, many worlds, but I
yeah.
don't think they're any particular place. I think they're all in the realms of consciousness,
Hmm.
a different vibratory state. You see, our consciousness here on this planet is in a very, very thin slither of vibration. And we think things are solid, and we can't see into the ethereal realms. We can't see elementals. We can't see astral beings under normal circumstances, but we can under different brain states, you see.
Yeah.
And so when we read about the supernatural and people go into trances and speak with the dead, well, they're in a different mental state, aren't they? They're in a different vibratory state. And
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure that shit exists.
Yeah.
So if one of those dimensions is hell, another one's heaven, well, possibly, but I'm very, very skeptical about any of the writings of the Old and New Testament because they defy logic, reasoning, and uh, any form of analysis. Um, because if people have been out into other dimensions, like the astral realm, I'm speaking about this in the video I made recently, and it's kind of like, well, look, my consciousness, my spirit has not my spirit, my soul has been out into the astral realm, or my astral body's been there, but your astral body takes your consciousness with you. So my consciousness has been there, and I've been looking around and going, what the fuck? I'm actually in another dimension. My consciousness knew that when it was
Yeah.
there. And then my consciousness came back and I went, wow, I was there. I felt myself leaving the fucking body and I felt myself coming back in. So I'm pretty aware about that. So those places do exist with all different sorts of beings in them, non
Yeah.
physical astral beings. A place like that could be heaven.
Hmm.
But you see,
Yeah.
with these people that wrote these Bibles, it wasn't the word of God. It's the word of man. And certain people who had experienced all these things, they wrote what they'd seen or experienced, you see?
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely categoric that the notion of God in the clouds comes from entheogens because I've seen God or a bearded bloke reclining in the clouds, as clear as day for a long
Yeah.
time, 15 minutes. And so it would only take, a couple of people in the old days to have these entheogens and see something similar. And they'll go, well, that's it, God's up in the sky. And if they were much less sophisticated than we are now, of course they're going to believe that, aren't they?
Yeah. But I have uh, one time me and three other we were in a cottage, and there's fire where you put in like the lumber stuff and so on.
Yep.
The three there's a glass opening, and it started to become soot on it, blackening,
Right. Yep.
and they were painting a picture of something.
Who was?
Something did that, and
What, in the smoke?
in the black that became
In the
on the
soot?
sat on the window of the fire.
Yeah.
There's a window, a glass window.
Yeah. And some human drew a picture on, or
No, no, something else.
right.
And it was like somebody that is good at painting. So it
Mm-hmm.
became like a human face with a demon upside of it, like that,
Right.
And that was three of us saw that, and
Mm.
the other person didn't look, but he felt how the energy was changing.
Right.
Um, and then my brother asked me, "Do you see that there?" And then yeah, I had looked at it for a while, how it
Mm-hmm.
was building up like that, and my other friend saw it as well, then we started to talk about it. Then I said, but it's very obvious what it is. I said, it's very obvious because it started to paint more and more, so it was like a negative entity that did something,
Mm.
and we and I said something like, yeah, focus on light, then it just flew up a fire, and everything of that blackness went away.
Mm.
focus on light, because you don't want to engage that picture to be drawn anything more, because
Yeah.
that entity probably thought it was a bit fun. How
Mm.
far can it take it?
Yeah, yeah.
So then the energy within the room that was that denser energy subsided and the light came up.
Hmm.
I have actually not told that one to anybody more than those people that was in the room and saw it themselves. So
Yeah.
you're the first one to hear it, even that was over a year ago or something.
Mhm. So yeah, I mean that there is phenomenon that happens
Yeah,
as to being sure about what any of this stuff is. That's my bone of contention. The whole of the Bible and the Quran, they're just too corrupt for me to accept on any level, and so I'll just keep open minded about the nature of good and evil and all the rest of it. And just keep investigating, I suppose. I seem to have a compulsion, because I'm investigating this stuff all the time.
yeah.
Uh, and I've done nothing else for, over a year, pretty intensely. Um, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Um, just obviously something wants me to know, more stuff because I don't
Yeah.
think we have any free will. Um, I don't know why I wrote this book about being closer to God and then decry God of the Bible. Um, uh, I don't know. It's very paradoxical.
Hmm.
I say that, I believe because I've experienced things like when I had the 3.5 hours with Jehovah. I just knew that was Jehovah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it felt like Jehovah. It felt like the energy depicted in the Bible. And I'm like, well, I don't have any problem with that then. And then the Jesus felt like the energy depicted in the New Testament. And it's kind of like, well, they're very, very clear, very, very different energies. Both showing me a variety of love, but one was conditional and the other one was unconditional. And it's kind of like, how bizarre. How bizarre. But anyway, what's the next
Yeah.
question? Let's do another question because that will wrap us up then to 2 hours.
Yeah. On page 276 again, yeah. Jesus did on several occasions that Jesus said on several occasions that we don't need to visit a temple to communicate with God. So, taking the notion of confession on board and understanding the goals and gains from partaking in such an activity, I couldn't see any difference in the effects and benefits of my confessions, whether I went to a priest or I gave penance straight to the man himself via the temple in my heart, as long as I embraced a similar level of sincerity of a devout Catholic giving penance before a priest and God. So that was further on what we were talking about recently about giving penance and so on. Yeah,
Yes, and so what I concluded there was that there was no difference, in my estimation, whether I confessed to a priest, even though I've never done that.
yeah,
Um, uh, 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 it was confessing to the temple in your heart. because
Yeah.
it's your truth that sets your heart free. It's your truth that sets your mind free. We don't need a priest to be telling us we're good boys and girls for revealing all our secrets to him, and then him telling us that now God has forgiven us. We don't need him. We don't need any particular God, because it works equally well um, by conveying that to the temple in your heart, by you being absolutely sincere within yourself and admitting to yourself and be willing to emancipate yourself from that negative energy, just to let it go. Just to let it go. It's kind of like saying that, thank you for giving me the opportunity to clarify this with myself. I realize that I was wrong, and my actions hurt certain people, and it wasn't conducive to love and compassion and all these sort of things. And so I want to emancipate myself from that, and supplant goodwill, uh, compassion, and love in its place.
Mm.
And so when we do that, well, it's remarkable how powerful we are. You
Mm.
see, what the Catholic Church do and what other religions do, they want to take your power away from you and give it to them.
Yeah.
They know at their root, they should know if they're clever enough, that we all have the power. Like Jesus says, you are the temple. You don't need to go to any temple. You are the temple. And if Jesus said that, well, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
And then Jesus says in the New Testament, you don't be praying out in public like the Pharisees, where everyone can see you. Go into your own closet, close the door, and pray in darkness and silence. Darkness in
Mm.
silence, Andree, is in your mind in a meditation. That's where you pray. That's your
Mm.
temple. That's how you communicate with God.
Yeah, that's I get much of what I think about when saying that, going within the darkness. I think about Orthodox Christianity,
Hmm.
because there's a strictness to that, which there's more of a masculine force within Catholic, or I mean Orthodox Christianity. Find that the kind of Christianity very beautiful in a way, you
Hmm.
know. Um, I always like the aesthetic of it, and
Yeah.
the monks, they look also like dark, like that, dark beards, dark clothing, and so on, and all this kind of yeah, relics and stuff,
Yeah. Mm, uh, yeah. What can I say? All the monk chanting and the big empty spaces where all the voices echo around, and
Yeah,
their rituals and ceremonies, and all that sort of stuff. Um, yeah, I've never been really involved in that sort of participation. I've always been a loan shark, and I consider that I can do things better on my own without the
yeah,
influence of other people, without
yeah,
other people's impositions of rituals and rules and regulations and all that. And
yeah,
when we read the Book of Thomas, and if you haven't read that, you can watch videos on it explaining it, very insightful. You'll see many of the sayings that Jesus said. He's saying that, we're all sons of God, we're all twins, metaphorically speaking. So we all have the same lineage, we're all twins and sons of God. And, the kingdom of God is within us all. And so he says, about if you think God is in the clouds, then the birds will get there before you. If you think God is in the ocean, then the fishes will get there before you. God is in here. God is in
Mm.
here. God is in the whole human construct. God is in the
Yeah.
world. God is within consciousness. God is consciousness.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's very, very deep. And when I'm saying that, I am God, or I'm a part of God, God's within me, I'm saying the cosmos is God.
Yeah.
Because the cosmos, as far as I'm concerned, and many other people consider that the cosmos is conscious, and that, in my estimation, is God. There's no man in the sky that's God per se. Um, uh, Doubtless that there are demiurges and all this sort of thing, like the Gnostics speak about. The
Yeah.
demiurge of Yahweh, and even the Anunnaki speak about the demiurge of, Yahweh, the false god, and of course there's many false gods, and throughout millennia, the human beings have worshipped thousands of gods. And so, were they all right in their particular idea of a god, or was just the idea of a god right? I think just
Mm.
the idea of a God was right. And gods have made manifest, they've come and they've gone. And some have been really popular and then they faded away. And I can't help thinking that Christianity will go the same way one day, the same as Islam. And then there'll be another notion of a God when we become more sophisticated. So the
Mm.
idea of a God is the truth and the reality.
Yeah.
And whatever you consider that manifest as, that's your prerogative to invent or believe.
Mm.
But I don't invent or believe. I know. And like Carl Jung said when he was asked, "Do you believe
Yeah.
in God?" He said,
Yeah.
"I don't believe. I know."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah. Yeah. I'm. I also know, you know, but I'm always. I have a problematic suspiciousness of everything and myself. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to have a high level of suspicion and skepticism, but how is it that you think you know then? What is it that you know?
That there is a world beyond this world that are more real than the physical material stuff, so to speak.
Right, and how
That
do you know
there's a
that?
higher dimension which you can be connected to. So
Yeah, and how
yeah,
how do you know that? Is that via your psychedelic experiences or meditation experiences?
I think it is by heart. You know.
Right, by heart, yes.
Yeah,
By our connection, by our intuition.
yeah,
That's right. You see, all these preachers and so-called religious people that I've been speaking to and asking them to give me a substantiation of why they think their God is real, and they invariably never ever could. Only a fraction of anybody has got any spiritual experience which allowed them to know something. The rest of them have just got faith, and faith is phony. Faith is fake. Faith is no different to hope and fantasy. That's all faith is. And I used to say to people, well, if you can't tell me that you feel God within you, you don't know God.
hmm,
And that they would get angry about that. And this is how most fundamental Christians are. They're very, very quickly to quote you all the Bible and tell you how you're wrong, but they've got no idea about what God is, because they're vacuous, they're empty, and all they've got clutching onto with desperation is
yeah,
faith. How sad
yeah,
is that?
yeah,
I mean, how fucking sad is it? You either know it or you don't. And if you don't know it, then you just live in fucking hope. and someone's told you that there's a daddy in the sky, and you wishing fancifully about it. And then if you ask them what heaven constitutes, oh, somewhere nice, where it's all loving and oh, please, it's just so sad, sad.
Yeah.
They've never
Yeah.
even contemplated that. They've never experienced nothing. They just live in this stupid fantasy world, and they're pitiable. They really are. But I was listening to this discussion on the Gnostics the other night, and it was saying that the Gnostic belief is that uh, there is only so many spirited beings here that have been trapped into this dimension by the demiurge god Yahweh or Eldiaboth, whatever they call him. Only a few spirited beings. Now we keep hearing that over and over again. In the Bible, it says only 144,000 will be raised. Well, when you look at 144,000, 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9. 9 is the number for consciousness. So only those who are fully conscious will be raised. How do you raise up? You raise up in your consciousness. By your personal evolution. The stupid ones around us are never going to raise up because they're just going to be believing in this bullshit demiurge all their lives and
Yeah.
saying and proclaiming that they've got faith. No, there's only a very few real people here. And Dolores Cannon is another one who proclaims that 90% of these idiots, they're just backdrop people. And,
Mm.
that coming from, an 80-year-old woman is quite something. She's a spiritualist and I don't know, a medium and all these different sorts of things, very intellectual and all this sort of stuff. And that's what she says clearly. Fucking backdrop
Mm.
people. She's not one of these preaching compassion and love and we're all equal bollocks. She's telling it how it
Yeah.
fucking is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can see this. The ones that are awakened, we can see it. We can feel it. It's tangible.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go, it's absolutely tangible. It's thick in the air that these fools are fast asleep.
Yes.
Or they're empty husks. They're not real spirited beings. And when we take psilocybin, we can feel them at 100 yards.
Yeah.
You just know whether they're spirited or they're empty. And it's a very bizarre thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, mate. So, well, nicely rounded up then, almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So another nice conversation, and we'll see if anybody else thinks so. But if they don't, we don't give a fuck because we enjoyed it.
Yeah. So next conversation, which which how far in between?
Whatever you want, whatever you
Yeah.
want,
Okay.
mate.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
did you manage to read any more, or are you just now catching up on the bit that you read before? Because we never got to the end of it, did we?
This was like things. Yeah, 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 absolutely. There's more underlinings coming. Yeah,
Yeah,
but a few more is coming here, so to speak.
yeah. And so, would you need to read any more before we talk next time?
Just a little bit, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if you read like 50 pages or something like that, then
yeah,
because you're marking almost every page, so there'll be a lot to speak about. And the more
yeah,
you get into the book, the deeper it gets.
yeah.
The more profound subject matter there is. And so yeah, all right, Andre. So nice to chat again. And
Like about 4 or 5 more underlinings left this time.
right,
Yeah,
uh-huh. Okay. And so yeah, I'll be speaking with somebody else. All being well, I'll be speaking with Tommy,
Yeah.
who I had this long conversation with not too long ago, who's read the book. Well, he's read 90% of it. Um, uh, and so yeah, looking forward to that. Just to get different perspectives, how people think about things and what their experience is. To give me some feedback.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, really, and
Yeah.
it's pleasant and engaging when that happens.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And it's very interesting to delve into all this kind of stuff as well. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a stimulating thing. It's great. It's good for me and it's good for you, you know?
yeah, and
So
so
I also appreciate it very well. It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Awesome. All right then,
Yeah.
Andre. And so until next time, then enjoy the remainder of the summer. The chilly mornings are starting to come. We've had reasonable weather. It's been like 19, 20 degrees, and that's pretty good. And but the mornings are getting more and more chilly, and the leaves are
Yeah.
starting to fall. And oh goodness me, I can feel the ominous encroaching of our adorable winters.
Yeah. Yeah. Like all the dynamics of the weather, you know?
Yeah, for me, the 2 months will be fine, but about 5 months is a little bit too long for me.
Mm.
Um, but I suppose then the anticipation of spring coming, it's so exciting when you see the first little green buds on the bushes and the trees. It's kind of like, oh my god, spring's coming again! Wow, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden there's a little bit of a green hue over everything. And then before you know it, poof, everything is fluorescent green and we're in it,
Yeah.
and all the birds are singing and, it's a joy and our skin is warm and all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, the seasons are remarkable. I've lived in lots of places where, there aren't anything like the seasons, like, on the equator.
Yeah.
You've got just a constant, really, and it's a bit tedious after a while.
Yeah.
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 So all right then, 2 hours and 1 minute. So we'll wrap this one up now, and I'll speak to you as and when then, Andre.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Thank you very much. See you later, mate.
See you later.
Ciao.
Ciao.